Go.
All right. Well, welcome back. We're so excited to have you here with us. And today we're talking about how to talk about sex to your partner, all partners. So we don't want to be kind of discriminatory to only monogamous relationship, but
Right.
sex talk is important. So I think it's a mutual passion of myself and yours, Heidi, as well,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Talking about that. And we've got a question from a gentleman. So this segment is based on a question we received. A gentleman in his 60s asked, why is it hard for people who love each other to talk to each other about sex after they're married for a while?
Great question.
Yeah. Do you have anything we want to kind of spin on that before
Yeah,
we move on?
I think that's a fantastic question. And I think, it does seem to be something that as it's almost like once you start having sex and time goes by, it almost becomes one of those things. You know how when you forget a person's name and you kind of become acquaintance and it gets to be too late and you can't say, "Oh my God, what's your name? I can't remember. I'm so sorry." So it's almost like it becomes that same type of thing happens where it almost gets uncomfortable even though you might be having sex or you haven't for a while with that person. It becomes uncomfortable. So I think it's really important, and that question does come up about maybe not directly like that, how I've heard it, but I've heard it in different ways where why can't you just tell me what you need or show me what you need? So again, it all comes back to the communication. So for as far as from your perspective, what do you think's behind, some of the reasons why we don't feel comfortable communicating about sex?
Well, I guess it all kind of comes back to that people are not comfortable about talking about sex in general, and it doesn't matter how long you've been in the relationship. People are okay talking about sex when everything is good, and you kind of want to magnify everything and
Right.
exaggerate and all of those things. But when it actually comes to opening a can of worms and sharing your fears, that's hard. And you know, the faulty thinking behind passion, sexual passion in the relationship is we just think that it's supposed to happen. Most relationships are formed based on the chemistry, and I think passion, sexual passion in a relationship that is based on just chemical hormonal disbalance is like wearing pink glasses that is immune to poor technique,
Right.
to poor
Yeah.
communication. This is quite disastrous. That's why we see a lot of divorce happening, after a few months, a few years. So it's mostly about that you have to put in effort. It's like going to the gym. You can't have
Right.
an amazing
Sure.
body
Yeah.
with just occasionally showing up at the gym unless you're super gifted,
Right.
with your physique. And it's interesting, human beings are the only species that have sex in private.
Right. Yes. 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 Absolutely. Yes.
Which is, other guys
I,
out there, they
yeah.
watch their neighbors, they see how it's done, and we don't have this opportunity,
Yeah.
mostly. So what we do is assume that porn is a good roadmap for that. And in porn, there is not a lot of talking done, there is just a lot of pounding.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And it's a cliche word, but it's that most people kind of let that guide your life and your sex life is this feeling of shame and guilt. This is a
Yes.
completely sophisticated, feelings. And mostly what the people I found are shameful and guilty about is about the turn-ons, what turns them on.
Yes.
And of course, I'm not talking about pedophilia, something that can hurt somebody, but mostly in a more healthy environment, people just really guilty and shameful of what turns them on.
Yes.
Is it like licking a finger on your food?
Right.
Or, I don't know, getting your butt cheeks licked? I'm
Yeah.
not even talking about
Sure.
blowjob, just in general. And a lot of shame is about masturbation. When couples say that we can't talk about sex, so I go and masturbate, and it's never discussed in the relationship.
Right.
Masturbate, it's not. It's a huge no in the couple, and that's what kind of causes a problem that when people are not in the mood to have sex, any kind of sex, it's not okay for you to go and masturbate. Just you say, okay, honey, you're not in the mood. Well, I'm gonna take care of myself.
Right.
And she's like, oh, sure, can I help you?
Yeah.
You see, in monogamy, masturbation is the only other option we have.
Right.
And it should be there. And in my relationship, that's so normal. In fact, I can call in and say, hey, I had just an amazing session today. And he's like, oh, that's nice. You didn't wait for me. I'm like, it's not that I didn't wait for you. I just got a great warm up. So when you
Right.
I'm all juicy
Yeah.
juicy. And yeah, and just most of us are not ashamed to have sex, but when we do reach critical mass is when it comes down to talking about it.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
that we do feel ashamed about it. And I'm not sure if you had experienced that interviewing other
Yeah, actually, it's funny. One of the questions in the interviews there was a question about sharing their fantasy, one of their, say, sexual fantasies or things that they fantasize about that turn them on. And the follow up to that question was, would you share that with your partner, wife, girlfriend, whoever it may be? And it was about around 60-70% of the guys said, no, I would never share it. And it's not as though I heard necessarily anything so bizarre or off the wall, but there were certainly some very unique things. But yet there was the comfort level to share it with their current partner was not there. So I think it's a very common thing to not feel comfortable sharing,
And you see, one of the part of not sharing is we do not have, let me start again. One of the reasons that we don't share is due to the lack of vocabulary to talk about sex.
Yes, yeah.
It's either penis, really anatomical, or really dirty, like a cock.
Right,
And
yeah.
which is fine, but neither of those words feel comfortable.
Yes.
And of course, let's face it, when we start, as you mentioned, living together for so long, we don't really appreciate and invest in our relationship as we should in our sex life.
Right.
Kind of credit cards, children, kitchen renovation become neutral topics and safe topics.
Yes.
And what I really found, and I invite our listeners to pay attention to that and maybe consult with their therapist as well, because I do it in my sessions as well, that people start fighting or quarreling about credit cards or about renovation in the same manner they do about sex. Like it becomes a metaphor.
Right. Yes.
So if sex is too scary, let's fight about this, but it's going to be metaphorical communication.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. I think that's a really good point.
And, just before we kind of move on, I think we should give a few tips. Is when you go to the restaurant, you communicate to a waiter what you want. And especially if you have dietary needs or something else, we do. And when it comes down to sex, we just don't.
You're right. Absolutely. And that's, I know that we talked earlier, you have some great ideas on how to, some comfortable segues maybe into getting into talking about what it is that you want, what you need, and words and phrases that you can use and things like that. So
Yeah.
why don't we let's talk about some of the ways that our listeners can get more comfortable, talking about sex and what they need and what turns them on with their partner.
Sure. And it's so, as you nailed it, it's all about learning how to speak about it.
Right.
And one of the safe ways, you can start talking is also using this metaphor. With one couple I had that was really feeling discomfortable talking about it, we talked about sex through talking about appetizers.
Oh, yes.
Main
Okay.
dishes and dessert.
Yeah.
So, a lady, she would say, don't you think that it's nice to order appetizers sometimes? I don't feel like kind of going right to entrees right away. I feel like I want to kind of prepare my
Right.
stomach, awaken.
Yeah.
And so for them, it's something easier to talk
Sure.
about sex through that. But it's all about tonality. So another person understands what you're
Right.
talking about.
Yeah.
Another one is a great idea, and again, it depends on your financial situation, but agree with your partner to buy a new book on human sexuality, on passionate relationship
Right.
every month. And read it together or read it on your own, and highlight a few things and say, hey, I like that. Let's try that. What do you think about that? And
Yeah, that's a great point.
it's all about open questions. So, and when where sex talk gets down the drain is when you ask a question with an agenda. You
Yeah.
expect an answer, and when your partner says no, I don't like it, people get pissed off.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not a dialogue. It's almost like I want to do that, but I'm asking you in a
Yeah, that never works in any area of our life.
Another one is if you want to if you're a more visual person, there is a lot of great sexy DVDs, and I'm not talking about porn. There's nice erotica, a lot of like DVDs on sensual massage.
Yes. Yeah.
On techniques on oral sex, cunnilingus, and kind of hand jobs and all of those things. It's breast massage. So have a Thanksgiving dinner, and put on a DVD and just
Right.
look at it. And another one is, I do it all the time, and I probably should do it more, but it's so easy, is when you watch something romantic, and let's say we have dates with our partner once in a while, and a man touches a woman in a certain way, or a woman touches a man in a certain way, and it's important to take a pause, especially for men, because men need to hear that.
Yes.
To
Yeah.
say, oh, look what he did. Oh, I think it would be so amazing. I would like to try. And look at them and say, I
Right.
would like
Yeah.
to try.
Yeah.
So be verbal about those things. It's like, going shopping and stopping by a jewelry store and pointing at this ring, saying, oh my God, I love it. Look at it. It just was designed for
Right.
me. Like, make it as clear as it is. But it's, again, goes back to ownership of your sexuality and taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Which is another one I want to share is board games. And I love board games because they can be fun in a couple, working with a few couples in my workshops. We
Right.
do them. Or just a fun way. There is no obligation. You can say pass and all of those things. It's a safe way. First one is Sexy Menu. I bought it a while back. So it's pretty much like a restaurant.
Yeah.
And there are a few cards. But the idea is there is intimacy cards. And, for instance, they would say, take an ice cube and run it on the private parts, of your lover without moving for 30 seconds. So you do something like that. Or can you have hot bags on your buttocks? So this is about the hot play with the buttocks, and what else? Trying different flavors on different bodies of your part and realizing what kind of part of the body it is. So it's all about those things, and there are others like doing some challenges, how well you know your partner. By the way, we've tried in my house. We tried this game 3 times and never finished it. It's like I talked actually before the show when I saw off Vlad, my partner, to work. I told him, "Hey, we never finished the game." He's like, "That's how you know that we both won."
Oh, right.
Another game is how well do you know your partner?
Oh, yeah, those are fun too.
Yeah, very reasonably priced, and we played a lot just with people in our house on this one. And it's just getting to know your partner about sex and outside, because when you haven't been talking about sex in your relationship for a long time, it's hard to jump right there, because that's where people are the most vulnerable.
Yes. Yeah.
So what you need to do is establish this closer intimacy without getting right into the vaginas and penises.
Yeah, definitely.
Learning about other preferences, what makes them feel good. And it's all about, if you don't talk about sex and you don't express it, unexpressed passion weakens.
Yeah.
I'll say it again. Unexpressed passion weakens, and there is no way about it but actually putting some logs into fireplace so it keep it burning.
Yes. And also too, to remind the listeners, kind of a theme for our show overall and every week is to focus on what you want. Don't focus on what your partner isn't doing. Focus on what you want them to do, what they do well, what you love about them. make lists of everything that you love about how they touch you and certain things, and give them those reminders about, when compliments when they do something well that you want them to do. So keep that in mind. Focus on what you want. And
Absolutely. And and I still hear many people say, you know what, you gave all of those tips. They simple. And I think that those people who tell you do this A B C D to talk to your partner, they're lying, because the key to life is simplicity. And most people and
right.
coaches out there that come up with the creatively complicated, complexity is the enemy of execution.
Yes.
And if we're gonna be, and we just come up with those complex things to make ourselves feel better, like look at me, I have masters, I have PhD, which is, it's all about going back to basics nowadays.
Right.
And if you still can't talk about sex with a partner, it's important to have a closer look at your relationship. Because if you can't really open up to the partner, to the person you love, the person you share your life with and children with, and why did you get in this relationship in the first place? I know that there's some cultures that do arranged marriages, and that might be quite challenging. But for most of us in North America, we have a choice.
Right.
And if that becomes an area of resentment and anger, that's where they come and see us. That's where they come to see a therapist. And I wish they'd come sooner than
Right.
they do.
Yeah.
Too late, and sometimes it means that it's the end of relationship, then be it. But sometimes you just need another person to help you not get stuck
Right. Yeah.
where it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I love that. I love the board game idea, because board games are one of those things, you forget how fun they are until you play them,
Oh,
and so I think that's a really great tip for people to.
yeah. The only watch out I'm going to tell people, as a few weeks ago, a month ago, we had four couples on our place, and one couple pulled this one of the cards, right? And she read a question, and she needed to answer a question for him. And apparently, she didn't get it right. I'm not going to get into the details, and then she turned to him and said, "You didn't tell me that. How is that possible?"
Oh,
It became
yeah.
an attack.
Yeah.
The person is sharing, and maybe there's some questions about the past
Right.
history, and you gotta be open-minded and just don't attack a person. Otherwise,
Right.
they start lying.
Right.
They would never talk. That's why people don't talk about sex. And I think this is a beautiful way to start kind of maybe wrapping down our show, is that when you start attacking people, when people being honest,
Yeah.
they stop being honest.
Absolutely.
And they stop, keep trying, having a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah. That's not going to encourage any further honesty from the person,
no,
if you're attacking.
of course, and these games kind of help you communicate your turn-ons. And for our listeners, we're gonna having another episode soon enough about different turn-ons. And actually, really, if you turn-ons that you might have forgotten, but they are so simple, and you can just refresh your mind and go back to them, because in our daily life we go to just nipples, I don't know, penis,
Right.
and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And what about the other parts of our body?
Yes. There's a lot more to cover. So.
Just, and again, just show your appreciation. If she's doing something, praise her. Give
Yes.
words of encouragement. Say, "Oh my God!" And there are different between compliments and praise and encouragement, which I don't like praise that much. Is that with the praise you say, "Okay, good job. Oh my God, you
Right.
did such a good job." With the words of encouragement, you say something specific, and that's what helps people guide their future actions.
Right.
For instance, you know what? Last night when you kissed me on the shoulder, on my back, on the back of my neck, oh my God, my butterflies,
Yeah.
got into my stomach. I was just completely consumed by love and passion. passion or whatever that
Right.
is.
Right.
And can be translated to other parts of your life. It's either, thank you, it's so nice to come home to a cooked meal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing for men, men, again, I know we kind of, have talked about this before, but they really do want to please the woman that they love, and they so many men were like, just tell me, I don't know what to do. I can't read your mind. Tell me what you want. Tell me what you like. So
And so many women say, you know what, I don't want to tell him. I don't want to tell him. I don't think I should be telling him. And
well, then I would argue they really don't want to change. Then they really
exactly.
don't want to change their relationship, because you're like anything, you have to change yourself before anything else is going to change around you. So, but definitely, and telling him does not mean I don't like it when you look at porn, or that's not telling him what you like. That, because sometimes women will say, oh no, but I told him, and then you say, well, how did you tell him? And then they say, oh well, I told him I wish he wouldn't watch porn. Okay, that's not telling a man what you like. That's not encouraging him. That he shuts down and then probably wants to go watch more porn. So think about, really honestly ask yourself, how have you expressed what you want, and when's the last time you really did it, where you actually said, I just, like you said, I really love it when you kissed me the other night on the back, things like that. That's men appreciate that more than I think women realize. So
Yeah, and just when you feel an urge and a need to talk about sex because it has been killing your relationship,
right.
killing passion in your relationship, I think it's important to approach your lover. And again, if you come from a loving place
Yes.
in your heart, no matter what you say, it will come out with love.
Yes.
Saying, honey, I love you to death, and you like my soulmate. I cherish you. I worship you. There's something I want to tell you, and I don't expect having a dialogue, but I just want to put it out there. I miss you so much. We haven't been having sex, and it's not that I want to crave sex. I crave sex with you, and I would love to sit down one night and have a conversation. What can I do? What can we do to get what we have back?
Right.
Because it's there, and I know you miss it, I miss it, and we both deserve it. And just leave it there. Don't pressure people to talk about sex right away.
Right.
That moment, that day. Just with love, kiss her on the cheek, and go with the rest of the day. And she will come. And do it consistently.
Yeah.
People try once and then they don't do it. You just gotta try.
Right. Yeah, I think that's great. That's fantastic. So, all right. Well, there's the tips and techniques for the day for how to create better communication and conversation with your partner about sex. And that will wrap it up for today. So we will see you all soon. Don't forget to send your questions in. We're getting a lot of questions. They're great questions, so please send them in. And we would love to address them on the upcoming shows.
Again, I guess it's also important to say thank you to this gentleman who's in his
Yes.
60s, and which shows that sex doesn't stop after 40.
Right. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
60, and thank you for being honest. And please let us know if you found this episode helpful and how those tips worked out for you and your wife. And it would be really curious to know. So
Yeah.
keep us posted. Well,
All
thank you
right.
so much, and everyone have an amazing day.
Yes. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.